Welcome to Sacred Magic. Violet is on a quest to bring sacredness back into our everyday experiences. Anyone can have an extraordinary life when they are able to tap into their sacred magic within. Violet and her guests will be sharing their divine passions, inspirations, and stories of connecting with their sacred magic. We are so happy you have joined us today. Let's get started with your host, the magical creator of Discover Your Spiritual Gifts, Violet Rayne.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Sacred Magic Podcast. I'm your host, Vialet Rayne. And today my guest is Alison DeNicola. Did I pronounce that right?
Perfect.
Yay! I love it when it goes well. Alison is an inspirational author, teacher, and energy healer. She began her path about 20 years ago with the passing of her father and the search for more. Her spiritual journey has led her through multiple paths of healing, including yoga, meditation, shamanic practices, and angelic light work. In 2015, she wrote the best-selling card deck, Mudras for Awakening the Energy Body, and has followed up with 7 more decks to date. Wow. She is the National Sales and Marketing Manager at US Games, which is our biggest distributor of decks for metaphysical stores. And so a lot of us buy our decks and our stuff from them. So, Alison, tell us more about your journey. What led you down this path of doing what you do today?
Yeah, thanks, Violet. I love you in the violet light there. I'm just taking in the whole violet energy. But yeah, as you said, my path started about 20 years ago. So I was young mother at that time, and I was kind of grieving, and I just feel like that. I felt like there's got to be more. There's got to be more out there. So that was my spiritual awakening, and that happens for a lot of people when they have a traumatic event or something happens that makes them, kind of go on the search. So that for me was the internal search. And I really started with tarot. That was my first entry point. I signed up for a tarot class at the local high school, which sounds funny now, right? The high school continuing education tarot readers, and with a lot of other women, suburban women that were pretty hip and with it, and we went on to that class, and I was just in love with the kind of predictive nature of tarot, but more importantly, I was really interested in the symbolism, and the numerology and the color symbols that I knew somewhere internally. I knew, but I didn't have it. I didn't have it readily accessible, readily available. I had this feeling that I knew this material, but I didn't. So I started to study in earnest, going to all different kinds of classes and workshops and meditations, and for years attended lots of different things, and was reading cards and doing that. So I always had the cards became like a signature. I always had a deck of cards, some kind of cards with me. And then in 2008, so about 5 years later, I answered a part-time job ad on Craigslist of all things, and it was for US Games, who was right in my town. And I went on the job interview, and I realized, oh my goodness, my tarot deck is published by the company, and they're right in the same town that I live in. Like, I had no idea that they were there. And so that was really the kind of stepping on point of getting a little bit deeper into things, going to work for US Games. So
I love that. I love that. And I so love US Games. I've been connecting with them for years and years and years, and I really do love them. So how did starting at US Games get you this entry point into these decks and being a creator? Because I think that is amazing. So many people dream of that, Alison, of being able to create their own deck and be able to create what they see and what they want to work with. So share with us that story.
Absolutely. So yeah, I went to work there, and I went to work in a sales capacity. Although I have to say, I was, I walked in. I remember like the first day I walked in to go to work, and I came in through the warehouse where, our warehouse, which is stocked floor to ceiling of, pallets and everything of all the card decks that we publish and distribute. It was like a candy store, right? I was like, oh my God. Oh, so I was like, this is amazing. This is incredible. And, it's a funny thing because I thought this is going to be so spiritual, like this place. I was really in that mode at that point in time, still very enthusiastic in a like very eager way. And everybody was just like regular folks, and I realized, not long into it, you had to be grounded. You couldn't be doing this work and be like floating around in the ethers or, up in the spiritual realms all the time. This was like boots on the ground. And so I had a good amount of time there, boots on the ground, doing the sales work, talking to customers, really getting to know the product. I knew I was taking in a lot of information just by being surrounded by esoteric things, books, card decks, different creators, authors, things that would come in. It's like I was almost soaking it in. I can't really explain that, but that's kind of how it is on reflection. And then we had a turning point maybe around 2014, 13. I was teaching yoga at that time. I was actively doing my external things that I was involved in. Yoga and meditation. I'm a certified hypnotherapist. I was teaching yoga nidra style meditation. I was a faculty assistant at Kripalu, which is a yoga center up in Massachusetts. So I was traveling up there a lot. So I was very passionate about yoga philosophy and all of those things. And the opportunity came to write a mudra deck. We had a deck, which is still in print, Gertrude Hershey's deck. And the publisher that we distributed the deck for was going to take it offline. And so we had a fairly good market for it. So at that time, one of my coworkers said, why don't we come up with our own mudra deck? We don't need to do that one. We can come up with our own. And Allison will write it. That was and so that's Lynn Arugio, who's one of my good friends and coworkers. And Lynn always likes to say everything was her idea, so we always like indulge her with that. Yes, it was. But she did say that to Stuart Kaplan, who is my boss and the founder and the chief of U.S. Games. And so he came into my office and said, "I hear you want to write a deck." And it was like a lightning moment, and I was like, it was like, oh, I do want to write that deck. And so that was the beginning. So it sounds like it was an easy, it was in the right place at the right time, complete synchronicity, of being able to understand. I was already doing those practices. So it wasn't out of my realm. I always tell people that about creating things, about wanting to be a creator. Start with what you know. It'll make it so much easier. Don't pick the most challenging topic to start with. Start with something that feels natural for you. So this felt natural, but there were definitely challenges to writing the deck. And the first challenge, there was no challenge in this. I found Sabina Espinette, who's the artist, almost immediately, just on the internet. She had done some hand art and some mudra art, and we reached out to her, and she was on board to collaborate with me. We came up with a list of mudras that we were going to create. I wanted to be focused on the chakras, the energy body. I had a definite idea. We outlined everything. She went off to start creating on her end, and then I was like frozen in time, like, uh-oh. Now I have to write. Now I got to get to it. So I always love, yeah. So I love to tell this story because, yeah. So this is Mudras for Awakening the Energy Body. And so it was our first collaboration. And after not that long of a time, we actually got into a rhythm of doing it. I stopped procrastinating and got moving on that. And so the cards are very vibrant. So we color coded them to each of the energy centers, which has a different color association. And Sabina did this beautiful, what we call Mendi. That's the paisley kind of background for each of them, which is very, very much from that Eastern tradition. And so the cards all have a keyword, which is kind of the energy that it represents, and the name of the mudra on it. And on the back, we included all the information on the card so that you wouldn't have to be referencing the book all the time, right? You could just choose a card, and you could practice this mudra, and you could see why maybe you chose it, or what it assisted with, and what different levels, physical, emotional, mental levels of the body that you were helping by doing these practices. So it was a very empowering card deck, and remains to be, and it's really one of my most popular decks that's always selling, and always people are always writing to me about, because it's perfect for people who don't know anything about yoga philosophy, but it's self-healing, so it gives people power to do that. And then for people that maybe have a little bit more information, it inspires their teaching, or inspires their practice, and it even is enriching to like your spreads or your other card readings, to bring this aspect in. Like, maybe what do I need to know about my energy, or how can I support my energy body, within this process. So that's the mudra card deck, which I'm supremely in love
I
with
love
still.
that deck.
So so that came out in 2015, and then we followed it up quite quickly. We did a second deck right away, because we were kind of in the rhythm of it, and we did mudras for awakening the 5 elements. So we just took a different turn. So it's another 40 cards, the same style, the same shape, so they can be merged together if people want to blend the decks. And then this one is focused on the elements of earth, water, fire, air, ether, which is in many traditions, ways that we look at things. And we look at the tarot, honestly, through the elements, correct? We have earth as pentacles, and fire as wands, and cups as water, and air as swords. And then, of course, space is the container that contains everything. So there's just multi levels of, so we're bringing in different aspects. And then, of course, I'm very devoted to the idea of self-healing. And so both of these decks are very much about empowering people to, create a better, internal place, a better, way for them to be in the world, and to feel grounded, supported, and in a good frame. So those were the first 2 card decks. So that was exciting. And what was great about it as a creator, and I say this for all people that are interested in creating, was that I had the ability to go out and teach about it afterwards. So not only doing your creation, right? Not only is your baby born, then it's like you take it out into the world and you share that with other people. How do I work with this? How is this enhancing my life? How can I use this to support myself, where I can do this on my own? Very much like learning how to read cards, or maybe learning how to do energy healing work, right? We kind of bring it home and do it for ourselves.
No, I love that. Actually, I want to integrate those cards in one of the classes I teach, which is angelic Reiki Metatron methods, where we learn crystal healing and chakra healing and all this stuff. I think that would be an awesome addition to that course, to bring that in so that people can connect to those cards and decks and all that, because it's all about healing. And I think that would be really powerful. So I'm looking forward to getting my own set of those cards so I can play with them. So thank you for creating them.
Oh,
so where did you go after that? What did you create next, Miss Alison?
So that was kind of on a writing roll. And what happens, I think, for a lot of people, when you do something and then all of a sudden you really get into the rhythm of it, then when it's over, you miss it. So I was like, what am I doing now? I mean, I was certainly busy out teaching in the world and working and raising my family. So I worked on 2 projects. I don't have them here because it's no longer in print. They were just house projects called Yoga Dogs, Yoga Cats. And they were, I don't know if you're familiar with the digital art of Dan Burris. He did a lot of calendars, right, with the dogs and cats and yoga poses. They're really fun. And so we did a series of card decks. And so I wrote those, which was really fun for me to do, and very lighthearted. It wasn't as intense in the research. It was much more, but there was, yoga knowledge and things in there and some messaging. So I had the opportunity to work on those 2 decks. That took me a whole summer to get going. And I came out the other side, and it was time for me to turn back to my project. So the next thing that came up was the Divine Feather Messenger, which is a 44 card deck based on the idea of finding feathers as a connection to spirit and to angelic wisdom. I had been doing angelic healing certifications, and I'm a master instructor in a modality called IET, integrated energy therapy, which is an angelic vibration. So I felt very strongly that I wanted to, and the birds were always talking to me. I would find feathers everywhere. That was my connection to spirit, and I know a lot of people feel that way. So we found David Shearer, who's an amazing watercolor artist down in Maryland, and he created this card deck, which is all of the different feathers. It's hard to see here. Let's see. So each card back is different. So it's almost like you know how you find feathers, your eyes go to the feather. You might be like walking along. It's the same principle. It's like, what is your eye? What is drawing you in? And so the card backs are all the different feathers. And then the actual cards are the birds with the message. And then in the book, there's a little bit more messaging. And so this card deck is so near and dear to my heart because everybody loves the animal kingdom. People feel really safe and really connected to animals. But I imprinted the cards with symbols of IET. So it's just a feel good. It's really a feel good deck. I'm going to pick a card for this group here. And so it gave me an avenue to, after it came out in print, to go out in the world and to teach a little bit of the angelic healing modality that was approved for, kind of general people that weren't being certified. And so I felt like that was just a great gift that I could go out, travel out, and teach people how to do a little bit more connecting. Let's see what we got here. And I love this card. And so I just pulled the nuthatch. So that's the feather for the nuthatch. And the message, I'll show you the bird in a minute, is stay grounded and welcome the new knowledge and perspective that's coming to you. And the nuthatch is so the birds have, not only do they have like seasonal identifications, they have spring, winter, summer, fall, and then they have color identifications. So we kind of weaving in that symbolism that caught my attention right in the beginning from the tarot cards, that there is symbolic messaging through everything, right? Through nature, through the cosmos, through all the different things. And I love that the nuthatch is actually a bird that likes to be on the ground and eat off of the ground. That gives us the reminder to stay out of the mind a lot and get back into the body, get back into the present moment, the now. So that was my next foray into card creation. And like I said, I just love the box cover too. I think they did a beautiful job designing it.
What a beautiful bird.
Yeah.
A beautiful card. That was very cool.
Yeah. So
I love that.
So all of the roads were leading kind of in similar directions. I did have a chance to work on this card deck next, which is called Nature and Soul Yoga Wisdom. So now we're merging yoga and animals together. So it's kind of like an animal totem card deck. And Christine Zillick, who did the art, this was actually her series of art that she had created. And she has a card deck called the Zillick Tarot, beautiful watercolor Toth style deck. So I was honored to work on this with her, and the images in here are so beautiful and a little bit more abstract and
Wow.
interpretive. So yeah, so the art in this deck is amazing. Um,
Very cool.
yeah, so it's been keeping me busy, Violet. What can I say? Yeah.
I bet I can tell. I can tell. I love all the creations. That Divine Feather deck I actually gave to a friend of mine for Christmas. So I actually bought it a couple years ago and it was in her stocking. So, I'm familiar with that. So I love the creations. And your one of your newest ones, the auspicious symbols, I love that deck. We actually carry that in our store, which will carry some of these others, but that one's been a good seller for us. Everybody gets that deck. They love that. My daughter found that at INETS this year and was like, we got to carry this deck. I love this deck. So, tell us what got you into that deck and how did you move through that? I would love to see that one as well.
Yeah, I'm happy to show it. So this is auspicious symbols for luck and healing. And so Sabina and I work together on the mudras, and we just have a great working relationship and friendship. And we wanted to work on a project together. And so we kept going back to this idea of lucky symbols, we kept calling it Lucky Charms. That was like our code name for it. What are we doing with Lucky Charms? And and not the cereal, right? And so we started sketching out this card deck, and we wanted to have auspicious symbols from all different traditions, all different cultures, because people are always looking for talismans, always looking for, things that will bring them auspiciousness or luck, or, ways to cultivate that. And so we know through modern, how the earth is evolving in that our thoughts create our reality, and the things that we resonate with will create more of that. And so that was the impetus. And when we got started working on it, though, COVID hit. And so it became very obvious that we needed the symbols not only to be auspicious and lucky and abundant, but to be healing messages, because people were suffering. We could just see a lot of that. And we felt like that was part of our mission in the world. So we've woven a lot of healing messages into it, and healing figures. So there's everything from, like White Tara, who is an amazing Buddhist goddess of compassion and action, to things like the sage, the white sage, and clearing your space. And my eyes are failing me here. Heka from the Egyptians. The idea of using thought-based work to change your reality. So there's just every different kind of. I'll give you some of my favorite highlights. And her art is so incredible. Of course, we had to put the little Miniki Neko cat on the cover. That was my request, just because it's so inviting and it's so joyful, and there's part of that too, that we wanted to inspire people to feel good, to be like, okay, there is hope out there. And so every time you walk maybe in to get your Thai food, which, it's traditional in different Asian cultures to have the cat there, it's actually bringing good luck in, right? It's like clearing out or bringing good luck in. So the book is pretty meaty. And so in the book, there's descriptions about each of the symbols, what they mean, a message from the symbol, and then a different way to work with it, whether you work specifically with a symbol or you work with a process around it. So it might be a suggestion to work with herbalism. There might be a suggestion to do a certain kind of meditation. This is an interesting one, the amiibi. This came up a lot. This is a Japanese symbol. It looks like a little scarecrow mermaid. And in Japan, she is what they use to ward off disease. So they posted this all over Japan. I'm sure it's still going on there, to ward off COVID-19, actually. And so it's like the reproduction of this little this symbol that rises out of the ocean is powerful for the culture, right? And like what a group of people tends to believe. brings it more power into that. So we just were fascinated by some of these symbols that maybe aren't that common, in the things that we're used to seeing. And then, of course, right towards the end, I had been really working with the Violet Flame and Saint Germain, and so we had room in there for one more, and so Saint Germain made it in there, Ascended Master, and also connected to not only that Violet Flame but Lemurian energy, and that idea of transmuting and transforming energy. So it's got 44 cards. There's all different things. This deck will keep you busy forever, either doing the practices or weaving this into your readings. And in fact, I have some friends that are that work in like acupuncturists and healthcare providers that buy the decks and let people pick a card on their way out to take with them, like a positive message or a symbol for them to take with them. About their own, journey and transformation. So that's very, exciting for me to hear that people are working like that.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I love all the creations and the creativity, and you can hear your passion and what you do and what you put into it. And those of us like you that love decks, remember the first time you walked into US Games and it's like, here's a candy store. Look at all these decks. And then to be the creator of some of these that go out into the world and they're loved and people are utilizing them, that has to be a great feeling to be able to work on decks and see people really connect to them like you have and have that passion for them. I know most of our listeners, I probably have 100 decks. I mean, that's pretty, but I'm constantly buying decks. I can't get enough of decks. And I know lots of people out there are so connected, right? It's like, my husband goes, another deck? You really need another deck? Well, it's different. It's about this, right? And so I love the decks. So what do you have that you can give us kind of an idea? Are you working on stuff now? Is there stuff in the future? I'm sure this is not where you end. You're going to continue to probably create decks. What can you share with us? Well,
I do have a few things kind of in the hopper right now that I'm working on, and nothing that's far enough along. Actually, I do have a butterfly deck that will be coming along the lines of the birds. So it's a divine butterfly messenger, and it will really be about that those cycles of creation, butterflies, moths, all of those messengers of the sun and moon. So we have the lunar energy, the moths, and then we have the butterfly, which is the sun or transformational energy. And so that's a beautiful deck. Will be, like I said, along those lines again, having a little bit of that sparkle kind of fairy magic in it. I have another deck that Sabina and I are outlining right now, so that's kind of changing around. I don't want to say too much about it. And I just, I know I have so many ideas, so many things, just like, right here in the think tank. And so what I'm trying to do is to share it with other people, because at my role at US Games, which has evolved from that first point in time, and I'm able to be out in the world representing them and talking to people and meeting people like you at trade shows and different things. I have found that people are always emailing me, texting me, wanting to just inquire about their projects and their creations. So I'm really starting to teach a little bit more about creative manifestation and how I see that unfolding. How I had to unfold it for myself, about getting our energy in alignment to do it, to create what we want to create in the world. And then just, the practical things about creating, whether it's you are searching for someone to collaborate with you, or you're looking for a publisher, you're going to self-publish or kickstart. And so all of those things seem to be relevant for me now. So I'm kind of teaching that out in the world a little bit to help others, to get their projects going, to get their creations out in the world. The world needs more, more creative work, more positivity, more collaboration. That's where we're moving. So I see myself as part of that as well. Yeah.
I love that. I love giving back and being able to help people because, like I said at the beginning of this, there's lots of people with ideas wanting to create decks and they have no idea where to start. You know, you mentioned Kickstarter, self-publish, publish. Which one do I go? What's the positives? What's the negatives? People are always asking tons of questions about how do I even begin? Where do I start? So I love that you're providing some of that insight. So if there's somebody listening that's a creator, has an idea, how can they connect with you and possibly get some of this information that you're sharing with the world?
Absolutely. You're welcome to go to my website, which is www.alisondenicola.com. So it's simply my name in there. You can just send me a message through the website. I'm happy to do that. I'm going to be teaching a creative manifestation class this fall in Kripalu, which is up in Lenox, Mass. So that's another avenue.
I lost connect, but she provided us lots of information and we really appreciate her being here on our show. I look forward to seeing you really soon at the Sacred Magic Podcast and Discover Your Spiritual Gifts.
Are you looking for an opportunity to fill your energy tank? When was the last time you invested in self-care? Vialet leads a weekend retreat every year in Woodland Park, Colorado. The purpose of the retreat is to reflect, restore, re-energize, and restore one's energy, focus, and direction. Violet's retreats provide the opportunities to connect, learn, and explore your healing and spirituality. What are you waiting for? You can find out more about this annual retreat at www.discoveryourspiritualgifts.com. Thank you for joining us. To find out more about Vialet, head over to discoveryourspiritualgifts.com. You can also send a personal message to Vialet through email, violet@discoveryourspiritualgifts.com. If you loved the show, subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or Spotify. Until next time, remember, we are meant to have abundant and joyful lives. We hope to see you soon at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts.